Welcome back to Coffee with Danny and V, everybody. I'm your host, Vanessa Ford, co-founder of Mental Labs. How often do I have to say that, do you think? Like every time?
I don't know. We have a thing that scrolls in and it'll tell you, so maybe we could stop.
Yes,
How about,
I love it.
I'm Danielle Jacobs.
Today we want to talk to you about what we see as women who are dealing in the menopause space every single day and talking and reading the research, what we see as being fundamentally broken. Because that's the whole point of our company. The whole point of why we get up every day and do what we do is to change the things that are broken. And we want to have a conversation with you so that you know what to expect along this journey in terms of how the medical community views menopause, what kind of treatment options are available to you, which is to say not a whole lot, and how society will react if you try to have a conversation. But also to underscore that conversation is really, really important. So that's what we're about today.
Woohoo. I'm excited because this is literally like the thing that we get fired up about. This is the thing that gets us going. This is the thing that really drives us to make all these changes and to even to be here talking to you guys is to help you guys understand, educate you, share personal and relatable experiences that we're having or that we know of so that you can feel like you're not alone.
Exactly. And that starts with understanding why the conversation around menopause it feels difficult to have for a lot of women. And that is because women's reproductive parts have been taboo in our society for so long that bleeds over to menopause, right? It's all got to do with your ovaries and your vagina. Ooh, what a bad word. I'm so over that. It's a vagina. Just say it.
Yeah.
Right?
People are okay saying penis.
Yeah.
I just want to say it.
Exactly. So first of all, let's embrace using the correct terminology to talk about our reproductive parts, right?
Okay.
And that can be difficult because if you grew up in a house where that wasn't okay and you grew up in a community where that wasn't okay and you're still in a community where that's not okay, it can be very difficult. And we recognize that because we deal with it every day too. And part of why we created the app is so that women felt they could come to a safe place and talk openly about what's going on with them. So that's the first thing we've got to do is change the way we talk as a society about women's reproductive issues, and that includes menopause. And I think there's this additional taboo associated with menopause because it's age related, and our society is all about youth and beauty and reproduction. Right? We all want to see beautiful young people making babies, or at least having the potential to make babies.
Yeah, I think there's that taboo of growing old, and that the word menopause signifies that you're old. I think and just as you were kind of talking about, the way that we've been trained about talking about our female parts and what's happening with us, women have to deal on a regular basis from the time they go through puberty, female things. Your period, you've got discharge happening. There's all kinds of stuff that starts happening. And what are we taught? We're taught to hush it. We're taught to be silent. We're taught to sneak your tampon into your pocket. Don't tell anybody why you can't go swimming.
Yeah.
I mean, that is literally the way that we've been groomed. We've been groomed to be that way. And I think that truly carries into menopause because it's literally like your period on steroids in the sense of like...
Yeah, perimenopause is no joke.
Yeah. I mean, you have all these additional things that start happening through perimenopause. There's body odor gets more intense, right? You've got more vaginal discharge more often, bigger periods, more heavy periods, inconsistencies in periods. There's all kinds of stuff just going on down there.
Peeing yourself when you sneeze.
Yeah. And we're taught to hush it because it's not beautiful. It's not
youthful.
Yes, and the image that should be perceived, right?
Yeah. And like women are somehow clean and pure and good, right? There's this whole leftover thing about the idea of women being innocent and not being sexual. And so to talk about a woman's sexual organs and her reproductive capability is somehow seen as a slight against her innocence and her purity and her beauty. Oh my fuck, give me a break. Like, I'm so over it. And, you know, when I was 20, I bought into that. Absolutely. But now I need to talk about this stuff because it's affecting me on a personal level every day.
Yeah. And I think, you know, honestly, that idea of talking about this stuff is another thing that us women have to support each other in doing. I saw this even as when having kids. You know, we had to have that perfect child raising. My kids are perfect. They didn't just throw themselves on the floor. They didn't just throw their food all over the floor. There's not a temper tantrum happening here because, you know, life is perfect. And and I remember being so frustrated as a new mother because I think I didn't have a lot of guidance going into motherhood the same way I didn't have guidance coming into menopause. And so I was like, what am I looking for? What am I supposed to expect? Like, and I was looking to other mothers, and it was astounding to me how much of what felt like a show the other mothers had to put on, even to the other mothers. There were very few and far between women that I found that were willing to open up about the chaos that is child raising, you know, and all the things that happen. And I think that even down to that, we're trained again to hide it, to not talk about it, to not, you know, to put on this image of us being perfect. And
because motherhood is the ultimate expression of being female.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And not only that, but if you aren't a perfect mother, you've somehow like failed your sex.
Yeah, there is like even just failing as a mother. Like, you know, you just have this sense of failing. And I think that really it does carry through into menopause. And we see so many women afraid to talk about it, you know, even so I encourage you ladies, go out. If you have the courage to talk about it, you don't have to go shooting, you know, from the rooftop about it, but, you know, talk to your friends, ask them how they're doing. If you're in the age group of 35 to 50, really start talking to your friends. How are they doing? Because a lot of women are feeling alone in this. That's one of the biggest things we hear, is that they feel alone. They shouldn't feel alone. We're in an age where we've developed friendships, and, you know, we probably have partners that we shouldn't be afraid to even talk to them about it. Like, hey, I've identified I'm going through perimenopause, or I'm going through menopause, and this is what's happening to me. It's okay to talk about it.
There are 25 million women in the United States right now going through perimenopause and menopause. 25 million. I'm pretty sure you know somebody who's going through the same thing.
It's true. And, you know, and we're so afraid to say it because, you know, it's that TMI. Oh my gosh, like you just shared too much information.
Right.
And I think that, you know, it's okay, you know, because there's just the only person that's really going to be able to relate to you, even if, you know, you have an amazing husband, you know, and they're still the opposite sex, so they can't relate. They just can't relate. So who's going to relate? Your friends are going to relate. You know, even a female coworker. And, you know, I find too, as us being business owners and women who have employees, and one of our big things within our company is to be open with us. What's going on with you? You know, because we hear from so many women too that they have a hard time even going to their female bosses about what's going on, you know?
Right.
And it's affecting their careers. You know, we talked about that.
Exactly. So that's one of the other ways that socially menopause is broken, because it happens, perimenopause happens to you typically in your mid 40s is when you're going to start really noticing it. And that's right when you're hitting your peak career stride, right? You've worked and worked and worked to get to a management level, to get to an executive level. And it's so frustrating because you'll go into a meeting and you will be completely, I'm speaking from personal experience now, completely prepared, and then have this moment of brain fog where you can't think of what's coming up on the next slide, right? You know it's coming up. You have to talk about it. You cannot for the life of you remember what's coming up on the next slide. It's so frustrating. And then if you can't have an honest conversation with your boss or your coworkers or whoever to say, look, it's brain fog caused by estrogen fluctuations and it's completely temporary, right? You're not losing your mental faculties, women. I'm telling you this right now. This is not what's happening to you. It feels like it,
It does.
a lot of times. It really does. But that's not what's happening. It's just that your estrogen is fluctuating and it's your brain's having a hard time getting the right signals because your estrogen's got to get parsed out to other places because you just don't have enough. And your body's doing the best it can. So be kind to yourself and just understand that you're not alone. You're not crazy. You're not losing your mind. It is temporary. It does go away. But it can feel like that. Absolutely. And it impacts our ability to be effective at work, or at least to feel like we're effective at work.
Well, yeah. I mean, I can tell you that there's probably several of you watching, and you're in that peak of your career. You're at that point where you are wanting and feel like you should be respected, right? So yeah. I think that you feel that you lose the respect by them seeing that you're having a hot flash in the middle of a meeting. So what are you trying to do? You're trying to hide it, you know?
Like you're admitting to a physical weakness and that somehow means you're less capable.
Right. Yeah. And, and I think at the same time, you're probably in a group with men and men have not been understanding or they don't know what's going on because the education around menopause just hasn't existed for us women, let alone letting men know and understand what's going on with us. Yeah. But then if you are a female boss, I implore you to look at your female employees underneath you and your team and say, you know what? I understand. Even if you're younger, if you have older women on your team and you haven't experienced menopause yet, be understanding, give them grace, pay attention, see what's going on, and give them the comfort that they need to know and understand that this isn't them about to lose their jobs. Because I think that a lot of women, that's what they say in the back of their head is, I'm about to lose my job. I just had 2 hot flashes and couldn't control, the fact that I'm sitting here like this in the middle of the room, or I had to excuse myself, or, did I just almost pee myself because I coughed a little bit? And, there's just so many of those little things that give each other grace, really.
Well, and the other thing is, as a female employer, recognize that women in this age bracket going through this will need, or they will take days off because they know that it's a bad time in their cycle and they're going to get, as a woman, you start to understand what your patterns are, right? And you can tell when you're going to have a day that's just really bad with hot flashes or whatever it is. And so those women will take days off. And if they had the grace to come to work and still feel comfortable having a hot flash at work, they would still come to work and they would still be an economic driver for your company. If for no other reason but to respect the bottom line of your company, realize that women need that kind of support. But for crying out loud, support each other just because you're women. Yeah. And eventually it's going to happen to you too if it hasn't already.
Yeah. So, and I think that really leads into, I think, your options to help you with symptoms and stuff like that. And so let's talk about what's fundamentally broken about that. And I think even before that, we should talk about what really is wrong at the core of that, which is the training that our physicians receive around menopause and the understanding that they have, because it's almost non-existent.
Yeah.
And we don't realize it. Literally, I would have thought that a gynecologist, right? That's their job.
Exactly. Yes.
And really, so we have a couple of gynecologist doctors, and we have one that, it took her blindsided. Menopause took her blindsided in and she was a gynecologist. She was completely baffled when she realized what it was and realized that she had not received medical education around this topic, and that they had focused their entire education around the reproductive part of it and
Right.
not the later transition. It's like as if, you have babies and then that's
You're done.
Yep. There's nothing else that happens down there, but it's so much more.
Right? And so she's told us, this particular doctor that Daniela was referencing has told us she had a chapter in a textbook in medical school devoted to menopause, and they talked about it for 10 minutes. And that's it.
Yeah. And we wonder, so if you're a female, maybe you paid attention to that one chapter. If you're not a female, phew. and she went to school to be a gynecologist. I wonder
exactly
how much education there really is in a physician studies if they're going for any kind of other, practice. So, I haven't been a doctor. I haven't gone through that education myself, but it's something to kind of, I'm curious. I really am. And so many times, especially from, unfortunately, male doctors, we hear it a lot that women are going in, they know something's wrong, right? They know their body isn't right. Their moods are just off the charts. There's just stuff going on that just doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. So they go into your doctor and you're looking for answers. And the only answers they're getting from the majority of the women we talk to is they're crazy, the doctor doesn't know what's going on, or maybe you're going through menopause. And then we go into the solution. And the only solutions being offered to these women in most cases is one, HRT, and there are some things to be concerned about that. Now, don't get me wrong, it works for some women and it's a perfect option for some women, but there's other women that's not a great option for. And the second one is antidepressants. So here's your HRT and your antidepressants. Well, what does that do? The antidepressant alone for a female who already feels alone in this, they feel unsupported, they feel like they have to hide everything, they feel like it's gross to begin with because that's what we've been trained to think about it.
They feel like they're losing their mind.
They feel like they're losing their mind, and now you've just been handed an antidepressant. Well, what did you just do? You confirmed that they're crazy and losing their mind, and that's not the answer, in my opinion.
No, it's not. And so I can't do HRT because there's a history of breast cancer in my family. A considerable history of breast cancer in my family. And when I talk to my doctor, who's a female and fantastic, and will really spend the time with me to talk about options, she was like, okay, there's HRT and antidepressants, and there's maybe some herbal stuff you could look at. And this was, let me do the math, 6 or 7 years ago now. And she really got me thinking about the lack of options, right? And so I started cobbling together all these because HRT, not for me. Antidepressants, I didn't need those. I wasn't depressed. I was just having really wacky periods and mood swings. And, she was like, antidepressants are for depression and anxiety. And what you're describing is not that. Menopause rage is what I had. And so that's the whole reason this company exists, is because I was trying to put together all of these herbal ingredients and all of these different probiotics I had read could help, and all of these like mushroom things. And I was trying to put together like 30 different ingredients in some sort of concoction, and taking all these pills and everything. And I was like, oh my God, it takes me 15 minutes to get through all of this stuff in the morning. And wouldn't it be awesome if it was in one pill? And so that's what we did. Yeah. But we're not here to sell you our supplements just to say that that's why we're here, is because HRT and antidepressants were not an option. And we knew that there could be a better solution. And so when we started to look for better solutions, we realized there wasn't one out there. So we made it. Because the whole point of this company is to fix all the stuff that is broken. So we fund research, we develop products that women tell us they need, we analyze clinical data. Like, that's part of what we do in our office every day is delve into stuff and really try to figure out what's going on in women's bodies. How do we take all of these clusters of symptoms and suss out the stuff that's just noise, so that we get to a cluster that makes sense, and we can make some educated guesses about what's going on to then conduct further research into those questions. We do that.
Yeah.
And that's because we see all of this broken stuff. And I think the other thing we haven't touched on yet is just how broken historically we have approached the research around menopause. You get HRT and antidepressants as your two options from your doctor because the research community is not there. Because to fund research into menopause, you have to include men in your study. I mean, if there's anything that sets me off more. We're hard pressed to find it, because men don't have ovaries. They don't have a vagina. How can you possibly think that is relative and relevant to a study about menopause?
Yeah.
Oh, it just drives me crazy. And the reason that we get is that women are too variable. Well, yes, we're variable, but study us within those variabilities to suss out patterns. So that's what we do.
Yeah.
Oh, it just...
And, if we look at the history of women, right, it was only 50, 60, 70 years ago. I mean, it's really not that long ago that women started getting women's rights and going into the workforce and, being treated as equals to men. And the one number that always just astounds me from the scientific and research is that the National Institute of Health, thank you, brain fog moment. I know it is the NIH, but I wanted to explain what that that acronym was. And it wasn't until 2016 that they truly identified menopause as something that should be studied. That's 5 years ago.
Yeah.
5.
And when
not
women
50.
And when studies into this period of a woman's life are really glaringly obvious that the perimenopause phase of a woman's life is the most impactful phase from an economic standpoint, from a career standpoint, from a relationship standpoint,
from a health standpoint.
Like
the increase in the possibility of heart disease and heart attacks increases by 50% because you go through menopause. That's something that the community and a lot of women just don't know. That's one of the big things that Dr. John Cornelis, our other partner, that has studied and looked into is the effects of menopause on your heart. And that's one of the reasons why we have our specific probiotic ingredients in our probiotic supplements is to combat that, because care about, that's such a big number. Women don't think about, when you're asked, is it men or is it women that have heart attacks most often? Most of the time, I get the answer men. And usually I get the answer women because they realize that there's a hook, right, to my question. That's usually, I notice. I can see the wheels spinning in their brain, and they're like,
sort of say, women?
Yeah. But most of the time the answer is men, and the true answer is women. The false answer is men. And the number one trigger for that is menopause.
Yep. Yeah. And your bone health is so important, and we don't realize it because we've not done the studies into how estrogen affects your body's ability to absorb calcium properly and to create the spongy material that makes up your bones.
Well, and we know osteoporosis. Like, we know that that's something as you age, something you should be concerned about, brittle bones, all that kind of stuff. We've heard that. We heard that we should take calcium. What they don't tell you is not only do you need the calcium, but which will help your bones. But if you don't have enough K vitamins and you don't have enough D vitamins, then guess what? Your bones can't even absorb that calcium that you're putting into your body.
And guess where it goes? As arterial plaque in your veins.
Yeah.
In your arteries. Plaque. Which causes heart disease.
Yeah. So that's one of the reasons for us, yes, we've produced a supplement product that we're very proud of. It's an all-natural product. It has 28 ingredients in it, and they're very specific ingredients to help women through menopause with the things that you can see like hot flashes and the things you can't see like heart health or bone health. We made sure that our supplements have K vitamins, D vitamins, and calcium to make sure that it gets absorbed. And so all of these, so there's options out there, ladies, for a natural solution. If you feel that HRT isn't the right solution for you, if you don't want to be on antidepressants, we definitely even address mood and energy with our supplements. And again, this isn't a sales pitch, but we want you to know there's options out there, right?
Yeah. It's the whole reason we exist, is to give you options and answers and to really drive this broken menopausal system forward.
Yeah.
So we have a mission to fundamentally change the way menopause is researched, treated, and educated in the society. That's our 3-stool mission. I come from a nonprofit background. That's what I did before we started Menolabs. And I really believe that a company like ours, that is a for-profit company, can affect change in the exact same way that a not-for-profit organization can.
Yeah.
You just have to prioritize that as the driving force behind what you do.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're here, because stuff is broken for you and for us.
And we're here to encourage you to fix it. One of the other things that I think as a solution that we've come is with our app. And so even if you're not interested in our supplements, or
you're
you
here
think that's not
on the app and you're using it, and if you're here watching videos and that's how you interact with the app, that's fantastic, and we love that you're here and watching. But if you're not tracking your symptoms, that's the whole point of the app. Well, I mean, there's so much
that we want to give you information. We want to, encourage you and have a community of women that are going through the same thing and have those discussions. But we also want you to track your symptoms. We want you to take control of your journey. We want you to take control of your health. So whether it's through tracking your symptoms, being able to understand what's going on with you, so you can take that to your doctor and say, no, here's my insights. I had this many hot flashes for this amount of period of time, or I've had, and pay attention to triggers. There are also triggers.
So many things can trigger just a hot flash alone. And we're often not aware of all the things that can trigger the 40 plus symptoms of menopause and perimenopause. And so if you can get a handle on your triggers, even if you never take a supplement, even if you never do the HRT or antidepressant routes, you can mitigate a lot of these symptom triggers just by changing the things that you consume and the behaviors that you engage in. So, educate yourself about triggers too. It's so important. There's so much you can do just by changing your lifestyle. So
go out there, interact, talk to women, find what works for you, understand what's going on with your body. And, just taking those steps alone, you're helping women in the future. You're helping your daughters, your granddaughters. You're helping just women in general. I mean, so be supportive, give yourself some grace. And
by doing that and talking with other women, talking with your coworkers, you're moving the conversation along. When you buy our supplements, you do affect change through research, because part of our supplement proceeds go to fund research. So by being here and being part of this community, you're helping drive the change too. So
on this, I would like to end with a hug, because you know what? So on this, I'd like to end with a hug. Because you know what? We work so hard every day kind of moving this forward. And I love being able to actually talk about the things that drive us and the things that make this such a fulfilling thing to come to work and do every day. So I love you.
I love you too. And here's the other thing. Don't be afraid to cry with your friends.
Right?
We love you guys. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Oh.
What am I going to do when you're gone for 2